episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
This is Season 4, Episode 8.
Or Episode 78 if you're counting.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! Alright!
Woo! Didn't get any of those party favors that we intended to get.
I told you we weren't going to do it. We just didn't find time.
It doesn't matter. We did it for the 100th episode. It's no big deal. We
haven't had 100 episodes yet.
Yes?
We had 50 episodes.
No, we had 100.
No?
Yes?
Because this is episode 78. We haven't gotten to 100 yet.
100 comes before 78.
We're going to get you that math tutor. It's going to be alright.
I am in remedial math. How was everybody's New Year?
Yes, how'd everybody do last night? Hopefully nobody got into any major trouble. How was your New Year?
Well, we were in the same spot, so you should know.
Well, yeah, you were there. Why am I asking
We were
you?
at the top of a hill that overlooked the majority of San Antonio, where the fireworks were beautiful and illegal.
Well, the best ones are the illegal ones. I mean, come on. Well, because the way it works is, for the most part, like...
Because in San Antonio, fireworks are illegal unless...
Inside the city limits.
Inside the city limits, unless you happen to be down at the Tower of the Americas, or
like right downtown.
Or you're at one of the theme parks. Otherwise, that's not gonna happen.
But the nice thing about it is that there's about a 15-minute grace period, which somehow lasted for 30 minutes last night, where just the whole city lit up, explosions everywhere, colors as far as the eye could see. It was a great view. Good way to start things off. It was nice watching that after having gotten some more filming done for the Fami Kamen Rider completion project.
Oh, yeah.
Which we're, at this point, days away from finishing primary filming. And still getting a lot of work done.
Yeah, and it's just really, at this point, dropping footage into the place it needs to be, and there will be a good rough cut of the movie ready for you guys the first day of MagFest. Very excited about that premiere, and we've continued to get submissions for the cheering sequence.
You guys are doing work with those submissions. Like,
Seriously.
I'm surprised at the level of I guess I want to say professionalism you guys are doing. Like, you guys are really taking this serious.
Simple. Yeah, for something such a simple concept that we've asked of you guys, just to be like, oh my god, this guy's in trouble, and then be like, yeah, you can do it, and then be like, yeah, you did the thing. Like, the creativity that some of you guys have gone into has just been amazing.
Yeah.
Seriously. So I want to thank everybody who submitted. There's still like 2 more days.
Yeah, 2 days. We're taking submissions until midnight or right before midnight.
11:59 p.m.
Saturday. So you got
Central Time.
Central Time
on January 3rd.
So you guys have pretty much 2 days to crank that out, and really all it takes is like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes, and then you can either...
Minute and a half is all we're asking for.
Yeah. I mean, to do the whole thing, so you can just submit those, make sure we get them in, and hopefully we can use you guys in the completed project.
Yep, and again, thank you to our patrons over at patreon.com/MarsGirl. You continue to make this project happen. You've helped make the Fami Kamen Rider project happen. And after Fami Kamen Rider gets released, it's back to pumping out reviews and request reviews.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you very much. We're going to get back to work on those within the next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be supportive.
Yeah, you don't have much to do with those things.
No, I'm supportive. That's what I do as far as that goes.
I know. I guess we probably have some follow-ups.
We have our stories first.
We do have stories. So the first of which that we'll talk about a little later on in the show is unfortunately a sad story, but more of a remembrance sort of story. Voice actress Christine Cavanaugh, unfortunately, we learned, passed away back on December 22nd, and she did many, many voices that people somewhere around our generic age would probably recognize. And
yeah, we grew up with her in a lot of ways.
So we'll be talking about a lot of her voices and just doing some remembrance.
Our second story for the evening is going to be a look at Season 2 for Sailor Moon Crystal, which is going to go up in a few weeks. We had a video come out showcasing some important plot points that they're going to be covering a little bit quickly, if you ask me. So we're going to talk about that and really just kind of an overview of how Sailor Moon Crystal has gone so far. And
what is our last one? How do you pronounce this director's name?
Feig.
Paul Feig. The director of Ghostbusters. So
The
he's
reboot.
got, of course, the reboot coming out, which we've talked about before, but he's really expanded upon what his plans are for the movie, and as far as where the script is right now, and what this movie is going to look and feel like. So we can talk about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, and what those things even are.
Yes.
So.
But before we go into that section, we do have follow-ups. We always have follow-ups. First thing I want to cover is something that's a little interesting. So, a while back we had talked about, 3D printing and what that meant for nerd culture. That means that people can start, making their own action figures. And oddly enough, you were the one who was pushing the idea of, maybe cosplayers can start using this.
Absolutely, 100% confident that as 3D printers get more user-friendly and affordable, cosplayers are gonna friggin' start using them.
Well, lo and behold, yeah, that time has already gotten here. We've gotten word of some I guess commissioners, you'd call them, funny using commissioner, who have printed out using a 3D printer, a full-body Arkham Origins bat suit for Batman, and I'll go ahead and link
the chat with it.
Link the chat. You guys got to see this. With the exception of the undersuit, the spandex, this was all made in a 3D printer. Like, if you look at this thing, this is accurate to a T. Color, you can fix that on your own in post.
Yeah.
But that's the bat suit.
Oh, yeah. He
you
looks
could wear
like
that,
Batman to me.
You can wear that to a convention and probably get a pretty good prize for that.
Yeah.
And this is great. This is the kind of thing that you were hoping for, and I'm glad people are starting to implement now. And as 3D printing technology gets better, the costumes will only get better.
So my question is, did the guy with the 3D printer have to 3D rotoscope build
basically
each of these individual pieces?
Yes.
Which means that not only do you need a 3D printer, you need someone who is skilled at 3D modeling as well. So that probably was a pretty costly endeavor anyway, even if 3D printing technology is starting to get cheaper.
Well, yes, but by that same token, if you're starting to, I guess, monetize your ability to print things out that look this accurate, this good, you'll make the money back on whatever materials you're using for printing. And so this is probably kind of like you mentioned, this is going to revolutionize how we look at costuming.
Yeah.
This will be something you might have to check off on a box next time you're in line for the masquerade. Okay, did you make this or did you print this? Like, how are judges going to view that?
Well, and also, I think here's another question. If you do print it, because I think you also have to take into account, did you also model it yourself?
Yes, yeah.
Or did you just get the model and then print the model? Because that's completely different. Because if you modeled it yourself, I think judges should take that into account as well.
Yes, because that's no easy task for some people.
No.
So that takes a lot of work, and apparently you can go ahead and ask these guys to commission you a set of this armor. I have no idea what pricing is. You have to submit a request, but I imagine it's not cheap.
No, likely not. But it is pretty friggin' awesome. And if somebody can just commission it and purchase it, it means, I bet you, it will eventually start to go down in price as it becomes more readily available and more people learn how to use it.
Well, here's hoping. In other news, we've got more news from Vin Diesel tying into a new Marvel role, and he's kind of heavily teasing, you can see here in this picture, you've got him with a shirt of the Inhumans with the caption, "Are you Inhuman?"
Okay, so he's part of the Inhumans
That's kind of what we're looking at here.
Yeah, okay.
And the heavy favorite here is that he plays Black Bolt, the king of the Inhumans, essentially, which is funny because, by this point everybody knows Guardians of the Galaxy has just his voice. Black Bolt, notably, is a character
Did they not mocap him at all?
They got his face,
right?
For some things, but in motion, it was all just kind of done in post.
An actor, yeah.
Oh, really? For Groot, just hold the stick up and everybody look at the stick with the little ping pong ball on it. But for Black Bolt, you would get his likeness, but Black Bolt notably has an incredibly powerful voice and he doesn't use it. So there's this weird trade-off. Like, he could be, in this perfect sense, two characters and not have anybody worry about, well, he's that guy, but he's also that guy, because you're basically splitting him in half. And I think it would work. I think he'd make a terrific Black Bolt. He's got the imposing, physique.
I think
of a
you would
superhero.
enjoy it too.
Oh yeah, especially like some people complain that they don't like the sound of Vin Diesel's voice. Well, then maybe you don't have to listen to him.
Maybe. Well, I'm sure he'll speak at some point.
Well, yeah, because he's got to shout and break some stuff. So there's a fairly big chance that that's going to be what goes down, because this is the kind of way he was teasing that he was going to be Groot, for months and months until finally...
I'm sure he had to get permission just to wear that shirt and tease that shirt.
Yeah, otherwise I would think by this point he's just like, you know what, Marvel, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to put it out there. Like, that's the best Vin Diesel I can do right now. Well, no, I can do a better one. It's just, Iron Giant. And even then, that's not even really that good.
No, I'm sorry. I can't follow you there.
Okay, you don't have to.
Okay.
Okay, in other Marvel news, we got our first look at, apparently, our bad guy for Ant-Man, who is going to be Yellow Jacket, who is not Hank Pym. Apparently, it's the character being played by Corey... I always forget his last name. Corey Stoll. And I will go ahead and link that to you guys. They've gone ahead and updated the costume to look a little more in line with what Ant-Man looks like in this movie, and you guys can see it there on your screens there in the chat.
I hope they can all see it. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't.
They should be able to.
So I would almost link them to the article too, just for safety's sake, or the image, whichever.
Well, whichever. But point being, this is another thing that they're changing slightly. Like I said, Hank Pym is not going to be Yellow Jacket, far as we know. It's one of these other characters played by Corey Stoll, who will steal the technology and use it for himself. Now, granted, that's not too far off from what one point that Yellow Jacket was in the comics, but even then, it's just another, for some people, a tick off for their faith in the Ant-Man movie, that
they would
changing
prefer
so
it,
much.
They would prefer it to stay Hank Pym. You think most people would?
Well, because the thing about it that we're dealing with, like we've said before, is that Hank Pym was the original Ant-Man, and now he's passing it on to Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd. That's fine. You can deal with that. But then the fact that, Janet Van Dyne's already dead. Yellow Jacket is not initially Hank Pym.
It's kind of like we're picking up in the middle of the story.
Kind of, yeah. And
our story currently in progress.
And I'm wondering how well that's going to do. Because, in a sense, yeah, we're in the middle of the story, but it's still going to have to be an origin story for Scott Lang. So, really, it depends on how they wrote that and how they're going to balance it out. As far as the suit's concerned, yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's going to go fairly well, I guess. I mean, visually speaking, but it all matters whether or not we care about the actor.
I mean, Disney and Marvel, they're going to get visuals. Like, things are going to look cool.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of it not looking cool or not being full of action. I'm not scared it's going to be boring. I'm just scared it's not going to be right. But
a lot of people feel that way, and it's kind of an interesting thing to tie back to this other thing. According to art that's been released this week for Avengers Age of Ultron, the way it's looking now, according to these photos that have a description on them, they're changing another factor for Age of Ultron to where initially it's no secret by now that Vision in the comics was created by Ultron. And Vision, of course, going to be appearing in this movie played by Paul Bettany. Well, in this movie, Ultron will not be the one to create him, but rather Bruce Banner and Tony Stark are going to be the ones who create Vision.
Well, because we don't have an Ant-Man yet.
Exactly. They're modifying things that way they make more sense. And I think one of the best arguments I heard for this was actually out of my manager the other day of, you know what, Josh, the reason they do this is because people who've read the comics, they're going to see everything coming. So they do this that way the comic people coming in can be a little surprised, but they can see, you know, we kept enough for you to want to come in, but now we've changed it that way you guys can be surprised.
I see.
And you know what? I kind of agree with that argument a little bit. You know, that way a comic fan can be like, you know what? I see how much you kept true, but you got to keep it a little fresh.
Well, yeah, because otherwise they're going to just be like, yep, I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. And then you walk away and you're like, I already knew everything before I walked into the theater.
Exactly. So, you know, changes abound on that front. A little bit of news out of Square Enix. They've posted a job listing online for a game that is related to Final Fantasy 15, albeit an online game.
Makes me nervous.
The job listing is for a designing, development, and management planner for this game related to Final Fantasy 15, not actually 15.
Well, okay, 15 originally was supposed to be related to 13.
Right.
So I can't help but get this feeling like Square Enix wants to keep doing this tie-in crap that really amounts to nothing.
No, I get that.
I'm a little concerned about that, and like Final Fantasy 11 and Final Fantasy 15 have done very well for themselves, and 14 is very much still living and breathing. So I don't think this is like an MMO, you know, perhaps some sort of fighter. Multiplayer.
Well, no, see, here's the thing. The requirements for the job, and I quote, include a positive and driven attitude, ability to use Word, Excel, PowerPoint.
Okay, so it's just some boring job.
Other things that would be considered positive would include online management, production of a game with fees, management experience, knowledge of game system calculations, as well as interest, curiosity, and or experience with PC games.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds...
You tell me if that doesn't mean you're going to be working with an MMO.
It sounds close to an MMO, but there's a lot of online games that include, like, microtransactions that are not MMOs, you know? For all I know, could be mobile, although they do say experience with PC games.
Exactly.
But just all this stuff, I mean, the person they're looking for looks to have kind of a boring job if they're looking for Microsoft Word and Excel. They're not asking for, like, game designers or game programmers. Whatever they already have currently underway. They're probably gonna do something like they've done in, say, Final Fantasy X-2, where they just took the resources they already had from Final Fantasy X and then kind of rearranged them and made a new game out of them.
I get that.
It's probably going to be the cheapest, most smash and grab money feature kind of game.
So you're saying you wouldn't try out for the job? No,
I don't think so. No, I kind of don't want to work for Square Enix.
Not now?
No, not the way they are now, no.
Okay, fair enough. In other news, on a recent episode of the Nerdist podcast, Sam Raimi was on there and openly admitted to screwing Spider-Man 3 up.
That's a weird thing to admit to.
Yeah, he basically, and I'm kind of getting it in the ballpark here, said, well, I'll just go ahead and quote directly. If a director doesn't love something, it's wrong of them to make it if so many other people love it. Basically, he roundaboutly says there was a lot of things he knew he needed to get right, but he just didn't care about going into the movie. And that's why the movie suffered. And for most people, they agree 3 was the weakest of the franchise, and by most accounts, the worst Spider-Man movie. So I guess now everybody can go ahead and come to an agreement, yeah, this was the worst one.
If even the director says so, then hey, it must be true.
Yeah.
Some things are just plain fact. I'm sorry. This is not a matter of opinion anymore. This is truth.
Yeah, this is truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got people saying, now does this mean Schumacher will admit he screwed up Batman and Robin? Well, that's the thing. Schumacher will talk about Batman and Robin like he meant to do it, which he did. He meant for Batman and Robin to come out the way it did.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean he's sorry about it, necessarily.
Well, didn't he at least say, man, if I thought that people were gonna complain so much about the bat nipples and bat asses, I probably wouldn't have put them in there. He at least admitted
I think
to
he
that
at least
much.
said that much, but still, he admits wholeheartedly to have said, yeah, okay, before every take, all right, camera's rolling, roll sound. Okay, everybody remember, like a cartoon, action. Like, forcing the performers to go in that direction. Like, why would you do that?
Because he wanted it to be very 66 Batman.
I get that, but as such, again, mostly agreed upon that Batman and Robin's the worst of that franchise. So, as long as he's being truthful about it, I guess I can forgive him a little bit. Which ties us to our last follow-up, which actually he's executive producing on, Ash vs. Evil Dead, this limited series that's going to end up on, I believe it's Encore, the channel.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Campbell's come out with more details on this show and where it's going to pick up. Ash is picking up again. It's been years since he's fought anybody. He's lying to women about how he got the stump on his hand.
But he's never gotten out of S-Mart.
Well,
right?
no, he's still in it. He may not be working at S-Mart, but he's in an S-Mart style job still.
Uh-huh. That's kind of sad.
It is kind of sad. At the same point, he's still kind of got a little bit of PTSD about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a little spooked, but then, he has to get back into this when the Deadites come back. Oh no, it's Starz. The Starz network. That's where they're going to be showing this. The good thing about it is they're not going to have commercials, so it's going to run straight through. You don't.
That's Starz for you.
You don't have to worry about content because they are definitely holding back to that good blend of horror meets comedy, which is actually something we're going to talk about later in the show tonight. And he's basically assuring us that this is going in the right direction. He's executive producing on this too.
I mean, he sounds really confident that this is the right thing to be doing with it at this time.
Yes.
I'm pretty confident with it if he is equally as confident with it.
Yes.
And everything he's been saying about it sounds appropriate for that character.
Yes.
To me.
Like, they've logically taken Ash to where he would be in life. Mm-hmm. And I'm fine with that. I'm looking forward to this series.
Yeah, me
I want
too.
more Boomstick.
Yeah, I agree.
So, hopefully we'll get more on that. They haven't cast... He's apparently going to have 2 sidekicks in this series, I should say. One male, one female. They haven't casted yet, so if they have open casting, here's hoping.
Oh, please.
Oh, come on. I gotta get something. Everybody getting something. But those are our follow-ups for the evening. Let's go ahead and get into our first... story here.
Alright, I'll go ahead and load things up. You caught me in the middle of drinking chocolate milk.
Well, yeah, sorry.
Okay, there we go.
So, as many of you have heard, by this point, a lot of people heard the news this week. Christine Cavanaugh, famed voice actor who was with us for many, many years, unfortunately died a few days before Christmas, just recently.
It's really kind of unclear what the cause of death was.
Just yet.
At this point in time, who knows if we'll ever know. Apparently, from things I was reading, since her retirement, she was pretty self-contained and kept to herself quite a bit, so I'm not too surprised that the information isn't completely out there. When she initially retired in, 2001?
2001, yes.
She cited her reason for retiring as wanting to be with her family, spend more time with her family, which is fine. It just seems like a lot of voice actors they keep going and they keep keeping their family for quite a long time. But I guess she did do quite a lot of work. After all, heck, we can just keep listing names on and on and on. I think I was probably most attached to Goslin out of Darkwing Duck, because Darkwing Duck was an absolute beloved favorite series of mine.
And then for me, it was a combination of both Chucky from Rugrats and then, of course, Dexter from Dexter's Lab. These voices that she did, she had a very distinct voice. Whenever she did these roles, you could kind of tell. I think, to me, with the exception of, maybe, I think it was, Charlie Adler, one of the first voices I could start hearing, hey, I recognize that person, sounds like that person.
Yeah, it's about that age where you start putting multiple voices together and realizing it's coming out of one person.
Yeah. And the thing is, with all those characters, there's something...
Bunny Rabbit,
Bunny
from
Rabbit,
Sad AM.
The Sad AM Sonic. The thing I liked about her performances is every one of those characters that she did had some real humanity to them in a way, especially having to play Chucky so layered. It's one thing that, Chucky's just the sidekick to Tommy Pickles, that's nothing. But then when you get to stuff like Rugrats in Paris, when you're having to deal with Chucky wondering about, am I ever going to have a mom and things like that, that there's heart in that performance.
Yeah.
And then, with Goslin, too, just from episode 1, having to come off as both annoying and endearing for Darkwing to want to take her in, there's something there. There's something real in her voice that was conveyed there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I was going to bring up, she was the original voice of Babe, the pig.
Yeah. And
Now,
that movie was, while taking some diversions from the book, which I actually had to read in elementary school.
Yeah, that was
as
about
the movie
right.
was coming out. It did take some divergence from the book, but otherwise was a pretty close adaptation and a pretty solid movie. The Babe in the City?
Babe, Pig in the City.
Pig in the City. That made me very sad. Was not a very good movie in my opinion.
No.
I don't even know if she did.
I don't
she
think that was
the
her in that
continuing
one.
voice. Well, good thing if she was not, unless she was, in which case that's so very sad, because that was not a good movie. But for example, the songs, what was that song that the shepherd sings to Babe?
In Babe, Pig in the City?
No. If I had words to make a day for you, I'd give you a morning golden and true. That song kind of resonated with me as he's singing to Babe, because Babe is not doing so well in the middle of the movie. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that movie was far more heartwarming, I think, than the second movie.
Well, yeah, because I'll say right now, I didn't bother watching the second movie.
Oh, the second one sucked.
Yeah, because I remember watching that in elementary school. That was on one of the last days of school. You know how they always are like, okay, well, we've already done the standardized testing. Roll out the TV on the cart and then pop in the VHS, and there's Babe. And I remember watching that and people getting a little misty-eyed there.
Yeah.
Watching it, and the thing I liked, she was great at the nerdy characters, because Chucky was kind of the nerd of the Rugrats. Dexter, of course, get out to my laboratory. Like, some of you might have experienced the same thing, like going back to Dexter and then dealing with this news this week coming out. If somebody mentions cheese omelet, I get a little misty now. Because the whole the episode where Dexter tries to learn French, and the only word he learns is cheese omelet, omelette du fromage. And that happens to be the one question everybody keeps asking him. What is cheese omelet in French? Omelette du fromage. And then Dee Dee gets after him. That's all you can say. That's all you can say. And he can't complain back. He's just like, omelette du fromage.
I'm kind of remembering the episode where, you remember when this little kid submitted his own, like, fanfic script to Cartoon Network for Dexter's Lab, and then they actually recorded it?
I think I remember that.
And it's just Dexter yelling at Dee Dee, "You are stupid!" Like, it's really...
Oh, just on repeat, right? You are stupid!
It's
You are stupid!
really childish, because a child wrote the dang episode.
And that's all it was.
Yeah. And so that really brings me joy, because it's like, man, you made this kid's wish come true, and here's Dexter, like, he's saying all my words. Like, this kid was so happy. I remember they took that kid onto The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and they even interviewed him.
Oh, that poor kid.
He was. I'm sure I would have been thrilled. Like, I'm on late night TV.
In the early '90s, I would have been thrilled. Not today. Jay knows what he can go do. And then, of course, she was Oblina on A Real Monster. Okay, I've never mentioned this to a soul, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this right now.
And now you're going to tell everybody.
I'm going to tell everybody right now.
You didn't even tell me.
I had a crush on Oblina when I was a kid.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I know what I'm saying. That candy cane. It was just for like a week or two. It was just for like a week or two. And it was the voice. That's all it was.
What?
Well, because she was the smart one.
Oh, okay. I will totally not use that to make fun of you in private later on.
No, you're gonna do that.
I'm probably gonna do that.
No, I know you are. I've given you complete, honest reason to do that. Yeah, there's gonna be jokes about this, but no, it was short lived. It never went past that. Anyway, point being, we say all this. Yeah, we're making the jokes. We're making the jokes now. We talk about this now because in actuality, all of these voices that she did, and yet somebody was mentioning here on the critic too. The critic was one of those voices. She was really funny as Jay's kid on there because there was a lot of heart there too. Kid voices were what she was really the best at out of all of those. And yeah, the sad part is she was only 51. You know, that's relatively young when you think about it.
That's only maybe a little over half of what should have been her lifespan.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, you know, we can look back on all of this body of work, and you look at it, and you can still feel the laughter and the joy from all of these characters, whether it be Chucky or Goslin or Babe, any of these characters. And some of these got passed on to other people. You know, somebody else went on to play Babe, somebody else went on to play Chucky, things like that.
There won't be another Goslin though. Darkwing Duck's not gonna come back. I don't foresee.
See, like that was the thing I was thinking about the other day, and I hadn't mentioned it with you. Like, people ask us sometimes, you know, what levels would we like to see in Kingdom Hearts 3, and we were all like,
oh yeah,
Disney afternoon stuff. And now to think, you know, what if they could have brought her back to play Goslin if they were smart enough, if Square was smart enough to do that? And it's like, man, we're not gonna get that chance. It's not gonna be the same Goslin, even if they tried to do it.
No, it would not be.
So, you know, you do that. I mean, you do what you can. You keep moving on, and you know, hopefully it's not anything major, you know, foul play involved with her passing. But really, we just wanted to kind of take this time and say, you know what, thanks for all the years. For me, a lot, you know, watching these shows, growing up watching them.
Yeah, no matter what, I mean, I don't think you can take away the gift you've given to a lot of children. No matter what might have been happening behind the scenes, no matter what might have actually caused her to go into retirement in the first place, and whatever caused her leaving us, that's not going to take away this body of work and how good that work is.
I mean, she didn't write it, but, you know, as Chucky, I remember her saying this one time to Tommy, "Life is so hard, Tommy. I think it's the hardest thing there is." It's like,
that's kind of a deep...
That's truth coming out of a toddler.
That's kind of that's a deep sentence.
And
like, holy crap.
And you're like, man, if Chucky could say that at his age, like, man, he's got this figured out already. he might come out of this well-adjusted. And I guess he did. I don't know, because I never ended up watching Rugrats All Grown Up.
Growed up. Sorry.
Either way, I refuse.
Growed up, which means they're not grown up at all.
Yeah, because
they weren't.
Grammar. But long story short, we're happy for all of these roles that we get to take with us.
And for all these memories that just because she's gone, the pieces that she worked on do not go away.
The performances live on, like any person that we've lost before. So thank you, Christine, for all your years of giving us these characters that we will take with us and show to other generations. Omelette du fromage.
Okay, that's how you want to end it.
That's how I want to end it.
All right.
Okay, so moving on to other bratty kids. So there's Chibiusa getting a smooch from Mamoru there. So Sailor Moon Crystal has gone ahead and released a small trailer for their season 2, which is going to be starting in just a few weeks on the 17th. That's basically 2 weekends from now.
Is there another episode of this season still to be aired?
Offhand, I'm not sure, because I want to say that there is.
Yeah, there should be like one more, right? Because otherwise it's kind of
because we left on a cliffhanger, right?
Yeah, if you saw the original series or you read the manga, then they still got to do something about
Queen Metalia.
Queen Metalia, which they have not done. So I assume there's one more episode.
Well, I guess it's this Saturday then.
Yeah, this Saturday.
So they're gonna wrap that up. I guess take a week off. And then on the 17th, they're going to come back with Season 2, which is going to pick up with the portion that we normally refer to in the older series as Sailor Moon R.
Yeah.
And from here, we're going to get, of course, the introduction of Chibiusa, who we end up finding out later is, of course, the future child of Mamoru and Usagi.
Which it seems pretty obvious throughout the series that that's who she is, even though they don't outright say it.
Like, even if you don't
pretty blatantly obvious right from the first episode of the series, of that season.
Even if you don't watch, like, if Crystal is your first introduction to Sailor Moon, you can go back to Hulu right now, and they've got up to that season on Hulu currently.
They're right in the middle of R right now as they're loading it every Monday, 2 episodes every Monday.
Which is great. We call it Moon Monday. Yeah. That's what it is.
That's because they call it Moon Monday.
Yeah.
Viz calls it Moon Monday.
And it's great, catch up on those 2 series, or in tandem. You watch Crystal every other Saturday, and then you watch Moon Monday and watch the old series. Now, people are wondering, well, what's this going to mean for the plot? Are they really going to show all the power-ups, and how's it going to play out compared to what season 1 has been?
Well, now, let me put it this way. So they've got this trailer for the 2nd season that they've loaded right now, and it looks like they're going to be skipping a significant amount of filler-type material, which they did in the first season as well. But I'll have to admit, I don't like most of Sailor Moon R, because I don't really care about the bad guys at all. They don't give me a reason to care about them. It really just, it doesn't happen for me. I think a lot of characterization isn't very well done. So, maybe cutting like half or more of it out isn't so bad. I found myself not really liking Sailor Moon Crystal's animation very much. Now, granted, for the Blu-ray releases, they do a lot of cleanup, but for me, I'm also like, well, why couldn't you just wait and actually air something that looks good to begin with and not have to do extra work to put it out on a Blu-ray?
Well, it's kind of this whole thing about the difference between the original series and Crystal, which is, yes, they say they're trying to adhere more to the manga storyline, but even then they've diverted from that. So they haven't kept to that little caveat that they gave themselves. But at the same point, we know that they're cutting out a lot of what we would consider the filler episodes. But the thing about it is, with the original series, those filler episodes were meant to give you more of an insight of how these characters are on a day-to-day basis. And in that sense, you got to know the characters more. That way, by the time you had to deal with Nephrite and Kunzite and everybody, and then when you finally got up to the big old battle with Queen Metalia, it meant something when everybody was putting their lives on the line. Whereas here, because there's no filler episodes, no chance to really get to know these characters on a one-on-one basis, there's less of an attachment there.
Yeah. Well, I also sort of felt like, there was something you said, I think last week maybe even, that Sailor Moon Crystal feels like Sailor Moon as if it were written by Stephanie Meyer.
Yes, yes, I fully admit to being the one who said that, because that's how it feels.
Well, yeah, and I can't help but agree, because I just feel like there's a lot of really static imagery. There's not a lot of motion. When there is motion, there's just suddenly like lots of hovering in the air, and I don't know how they're able to do it, and they're kind of falling, but not really.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's magic flying, but it doesn't really look like anybody's actually getting hurt. There's maybe some like power struggles, but again, it's not like it doesn't feel like it's actually threatening. It just looks colorful and flashy, but otherwise it doesn't, I don't feel like, the world is in peril.
Right.
I don't know. I don't feel...
And I've said this before, and yeah, it's the major difference, I'd say, is missing in this adaptation, which is the humor. The humor helped humanize the characters, all of them. Most of it dealing with Usagi's tardiness or sleepiness or appetite, things of that nature. And with none of that to bounce off, it's always about the mission. It's always about, we have to defeat this evil aura, the enemy. How they subtitle everything, the enemy. And then you're pushing the romance between Mamoru and Usagi more, but there's nothing to break that up. Everything feels so
Well, even the romance between Mamoru and Usagi feels very empty and hollow, and just suddenly like, ting! Oh, they love each other. Okay, why? Like I don't feel a growth between the two of them in any way. It's just suddenly, oh, I remember you from long ago, and like, well, I still don't feel it. You still haven't really taken the time to make me attached even to their past.
Right.
Yeah, they show a flashback, but it's
And
not.
we had
enough.
a flashback episode.
And it's not, but it's not enough to make
Right.
me feel like, well, why do they love each other? Why
Right.
is that? Why did they love each other in the first place? Just, oh, you are a prince and I am a princess and love.
Yeah,
Like
because
that's how it equaled to me.
this is what it is because that's how the story was written.
And yes, Crystal does aim to match pace with the manga slightly better, and that it does. And it does get closer to the art style of the manga as well. And, I mean, it's very, very shoujo in that respect. All the, flowery panels.
Yeah.
I mean, in that sense, it does its job pretty decently, but it doesn't mean that I think that it's a better told story for that reason.
No, like, I get that, yeah, Sailor Moon is kind of in the pure definition of a shoujo manga, but as such, it's pushed to a point where in some episodes it's hardly bearable, especially in this last one. When I get the fact that you've tried to make sure all of the generals have survived here to the end, and then they just kind of get offed in one shot by Queen Metalia. It's like, okay, you kind of had something there where you were having the other Sailor Guardians be like, come on, you remember us, we knew each other once, and they're starting to get their memories back, and if they had let that pan out, let each of them develop more of an attachment. But we didn't get an attachment. The show kills them off immediately in one shot. And then the Sailor Guardians are like, oh no!
Yeah, but it's all gonna be okay.
Well, yeah, it's all gonna be okay.
We all know it's all gonna be okay.
But even then, I don't see how they have an attachment. They're saying the lines of, oh wait, we remembered them, and now we're sad because Queen Metalia killed them. But there's no wait. You're just telling me. Don't tell, show, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I usually would agree, too, because it's really boring to just hear words. It's more exciting, fulfilling, and emotionally attaching to be shown what you want us to feel.
And then the other major thing is that we're also apparently going to be getting Sailor Pluto a lot earlier.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. I was like, whoa, they're jumping right to Pluto. Okay, you're not even gonna wait.
Like, we're not getting cool. Uranus or Neptune.
No, this is fine. This is correct. This is accurate. Like, that's not the problem. The problem is just, like, maybe it's because they're showing an overarching view of the entire season,
I guess.
But it was just like suddenly, oh, Pluto, oh, good to see you.
Yeah,
okay.
When did you get here? You got an earlier flight? All right.
I mean, it's probably gonna be okay, because, I mean, after all, this trailer's only a little over 2 minutes.
Right, I get that.
Also, they don't show anything of what the major villain organization of that season is.
That was the thing I'm wondering, because they take a little over half of this little trailer here showing basically what we should be seeing in episode 1 of this new season.
Yeah, half the trailer is like scenes you're gonna see in episode 1.
And if you're already familiar with
Chibi Moon falling from the sky.
Right. And if you're already familiar with the series, it's like, okay, yeah, I know, get on with it. Come on.
In fact, they recreate those frames from the original series almost 100%. In some cases, they've just flipped it around and changed the art style. It's like the exact same scene, which is a little irritating.
A little irritating. Well, see, this is always the argument I had with the scene to begin with. Like, okay, so if she fell out of the sky, facing down, shouldn't Mamoru's head be... But she lands backwards?
Look, don't worry about the physics of it.
But the physics of this have bugged me for years!
Because it's the exact same shot from 1993, I guess that season came out.
Yeah.
The physics that's not a big deal to me.
It's kind of one of those small nerd rage things.
This is not the thing you should be raging about. You should be raging about the fact that the daughter wants to make out with the dad, but she doesn't know.
We're not even going to go into that.
Okay.
We've talked about enough creepy things tonight. Okay, so that's basically how that's gonna go. 2 weeks from now, January 17th, it'll be up on Hulu since they're simulcasting. If you want to catch up, it's all there on Hulu currently, also on Crunchyroll. So do that, watch that.
Sure.
And for our last story, who you gonna call? Maybe a lot of Ghostbusters.
Maybe a lot.
So Paul Feig has talked more openly now about his plans for this Ghostbusters reboot, and we'll just kind of go after these one after another. He's not sure how many Ghostbusters they're going to be. They're still apparently working on the first draft.
He was talking about there being maybe a larger team of Ghostbusters than just the 3 to 4 that we get in Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2.
We're still hearing that predominantly this is going to be an all-female team.
See, that part really doesn't bother me yet. Those aren't the things that bother me, really.
Now, moving on to other things, he has confirmed this is a full reboot. Mm-hmm. So it's got no ties to the original run with Ivan Reitman.
Well, here's the thing. He also says, I care too much about the original movies. What's the wording?
The direct quote is, I have too much respect for the original one.
Okay, so if you have respect for the original one, I would think... Now, this is just me. Okay, just speaking out of my own mouth.
Okay.
I would think you would want to build it very carefully within the same universe and acknowledging the same canon as is set up by the original Ghostbuster film. Well, that would be my personal belief if you actually cared about the material.
Well, he goes on. He goes on to say, there's also this feeling that once the world knows ghosts exist and have seen them busted on a large scale, they run the risk of becoming pedestrian. That there's something fun about introducing our world, which has never seen ghosts, to the phenomenon of ghosts. I love origin stories and to introduce new characters.
I'm bored with origin stories.
Well, see, here's the thing about it, though. Admittedly, that was a problem with Ghostbusters 2. At the beginning of Ghostbusters 2, New York has already gotten over the idea that they were being haunted. Mm-hmm. So that was already a problem in the original
Ghosts had already been caught. Yeah, I get that.
So think about it. If it's still set in that world this far down the road, yeah, ghostbusting would have been outsourced to another company. It just wouldn't have been a problem hardly anymore, I don't think.
I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe other parts of the country maybe are not properly staffed to accomplish such things. I mean, there are fan films that do this job perfectly fine.
Admittedly, yes.
Of telling a story about different branches in different parts of the country. And I think that could have been done. And if an all-female team were to do that, perhaps in another city that was not properly staffed to do the job, I think that could have been done. I don't see a need to reboot, like, at all.
Well, I think that the bigger problem you had wasn't the fact that it was a reboot, and wasn't the fact that he says he's got a respect for the original franchise. It's this quote right here where he's talking about he wants it to be scarier than the original.
I do kind of have a problem with that, and it's because I'm a little afraid that will defeat the tone of what Ghostbusters is supposed to be. Like, I just wonder, is Dan Aykroyd having anything to do with this? Anywhere? Is he anywhere in the production?
Far as I know, the last thing I heard was that he was either going to produce or be consulted on the writing, but he wasn't actually a writer.
See, that's a problem, because this is... Ghostbusters is Dan Aykroyd, like, to the bone.
Yeah.
You know? Because Dan Aykroyd is just kind of a weird dude, but he's funny that way.
Yeah.
He's funny how bizarre of a dude he is.
Yeah.
And it needs that. It needs that kind of like, well, there's ghosts out there, and this really should be a scary situation, but the way we're gonna portray it, it's gonna be really friggin' amusing.
Right.
And therefore, even when ghosts looked like they should have been scary, like you could have put some of these ghosts into Poltergeist, I was never afraid of any of those ghosts ever.
Well, really,
because it was the mood, it was the music, it was how characters were reacting to it, what the camera was doing when, like, okay, the librarian, like things are flying out of bookcases.
Well, I'm thinking about it now. You know, as a kid watching the Ghostbusters movies, the first movie I was never really scared by. You know, it was cool to watch. I was a little creeped out. Maybe by, the big dogs, but, that wasn't it. Mm-hmm. And then with Ghostbusters 2, really I was more scared by Peter McNichol's eyes glowing in the dark. That actually was more creepy to me than any Well, actually, Peter McNichol was probably the scariest thing about that movie to me, now that I think about it. Because the two things that scared me the most out of that movie were when his eyes are glowing in the hallway, and then when the ghost nanny version of him shows up to take the baby.
Yeah.
And he's there, and again, the eyes are glowing. That's really what scared me.
I get that.
But it's weird that the human is more scary to me than the ghost. Like, Vigo, he was never that scary to me, because I was there with Venkman the whole time. Hey, Vigi, you've been a very bad monkey. Yeah. And that's the thing, there's this whole tongue-in-cheek way of how they handle the ghosts. And I get how you would be afraid that if they focus too much on maybe horror aspects of the movie, then you're going to lose the comedy. But this guy is a comedy director inherently.
I get that too, and here's the problem I have as well, and I think I've mentioned it before, is that it's not an all-women cast that bothers me. It's that this is from the director of Bridesmaids, and I saw Bridesmaids, and people were like, oh, well, it's like The Hangover, but with a bunch of women, and I watched it, and I was like, no, it isn't. Like, it's not even funny. I did not laugh at Bridesmaids, and there were, like, huge plot holes in it, and the main character was a terrible human being and barely even acknowledges that she's even been a terrible human being the whole time, and somehow manages to get the other characters to apologize to her. Like, it blew my mind. There was nothing redeeming about that movie at all.
Well, admittedly, comparing it to that, he admits that they're not going for the R feel of Bridesmaids. They're going to shoot for PG-13.
You can write a good movie with good characters and no plot holes and characters that redeem themselves and not and still have it be rated R. Like, so, that's not the problem.
See, that's the thing. This is another one of those things, like, we had a conversation in the car about. You remember when we were driving out to, was it Laredo, right? And we had this whole conversation in the car. How would they be able to best do a reboot or a relaunch of the franchise? And what we were coming up with was a completely different cast and a completely different type of story, where you have the archetype characters of someone who's like Egon, like Ray, like Venkman, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily have to match age, ethnicity, gender,
just that character type. And I think at the least that's what he's going to have to do here. As long as he's matching character types, they don't have to be named Egon and wear glasses, but so long as they're the brains of the operation. They don't have to be named Ray Stantz and be really just rattling off, all this factoid information. They just have to be very enthused about ghosts. And you don't have to have somebody named Peter Venkman who has a psychology degree and is hitting on everything walking past him. They just have to be charming.
Yeah.
So long as they're focusing on those things, and then, having the outsider like Winston come in on this. When you put all that together, that's the core of what makes Ghostbusters Ghostbusters. That, along with, Aykroyd's writing and everybody else's performance. If you can combine those elements succinctly, then you can pepper it with however else you want to flavor it with, okay, a little bit more horror here, just a little bit more comedy here, just a little bit. And then, we're going to have to push the effects up. It's years later now. We want to see something. There's a lot that... really, this is... to me, not that hard to screw up, but yet I'm afraid he's going to on some level.
I'm scared of this reboot at all. Really, the best Ghostbusters 3 we could have ever had was Ghostbusters the video game.
Admittedly, yes, because we had everybody.
We had everybody, and I know it's not a movie, but especially with the PS3 or Xbox 360 versions, those are...
which I specifically wanted because it was the actor character models. I get that they're more expressive in the Wii version. I get that.
No. This is why I actually say the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions are the most cinematic and the closest.
Which is why I wanted. Which is why I have a copy.
Yeah. Now I admit, like, I actually prefer, as a video game, I prefer the Wii version of it because, one, you can use your Wiimote and you feel like you're using a proton pack.
Right.
And then two, the character models are way more animated because it's a cartoony character design, and so like the game is basically the same, the gameplay is basically the same, it's all the same dialogue, it's all the same vocal recordings,
It's the same plot.
so but the same line being said by Venkman, like, so you're welcome, huh? You only see it on his face in the PS3 version, but in the Wii version, his whole body gets into it. So, you're welcome? Huh? Like, he starts really pushing himself into it. I love that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if you're talking cinematic, PS3/360 version is the best version of Ghostbusters 3 we can ask for.
So, yeah, basically, if you want Ghostbusters 3, go play that. As for this, you know, we're just wondering how the story's going to go at this point. I can't even begin to imagine, like, the concept of redesigns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how's that going to look? Like, if he tries too hard to get away from, you know, concrete things like the Ecto-1, the tan bodysuits, the giant proton packs, like, that's where more people are going to get angry when you start dealing with the visuals and changing those.
Like, I can understand upgrades to the proton pack, but it can't go too far, I don't think.
Yeah, like, we're not looking for it to go from 1980s microwave to a MacBook Air on your back.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're not... Yeah, I get it. They'll probably have to use a more functional kind of car, but they're not going to be busting ghosts in a smart car.
No, probably not.
No.
And I am sorry to say, but I feel like it has to keep the... Yeah,
no. People are going to get mad if that happens.
Yeah.
There's certain things you know...
If it just ends up sounding like woo, 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 woo. That's not Ghostbusters.
No, that's a siren.
No.
Well, that's a siren too, but...
The cat.
The cat,
I
yeah.
know. I think we're done.
Yeah, I think we're done here. So that's where we are at currently with that story. Of course, we're going to keep you guys abreast of all the information as it is released. Hopefully it won't be too bad.
I'm still scared.
A little scared.
I'm a little scared. And I guess that's it for this evening. But if you're here with us live, stick around with us in the chat room for an additional half an hour, and we're gonna do Q&A with all you guys here. And you guys on YouTube, thank you for watching us. We do like it when you guys do come in here for our chats. And again, always, that's Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time, and so we look forward to seeing any and all of you coming down here to have conversations with us.
And in the meantime, you can always hit us up on Twitter during the week. I'm at Josh Knight First.
And I'm at Mars Girl.
And that having been said, this has been this week's episode of Beyond the Black Rims. We'll see you guys next week.
Good night.